I knew something was wrong the moment Dad smiled at me. Not the normal kind of smile. This one was too calm, too sweet, the type people wear when they know something you don't. I was sitting between Brian and Noble, my two brothers, at our long mahogany dining table. The food was too perfect. The chicken was golden, the jollof rice didn't have a single burnt grain, and the wine glasses sparkled like they were rented. Even Mom wore her best silk blouse, the blue one she never brings out unless it's a wedding or someone is dying, and we were all just there. Eating, smiling, pretending like we hadn't been ignoring each other's calls for months. That's when Dad said it. He looked straight at me and asked, "So Adele, did the money help at all?" I froze. My fork hovered midair. I turned my head slowly, eyes wide. "What money?" I said. Silence. Even the spoons stopped clinking. I turned to look at Mom. She wasn't chewing anymore. She was staring at her plate like it had just slapped her. Hi, story lovers. Before we go further, do me one small favor. Hit that red subscribe button below this video if you haven't already. Join the Story and Soul family for more African stories that shake tables, break hearts, and reveal secrets you never see coming. Now, back to dinner. Rewinding a bit, this dinner wasn't my idea. It was Mom's. She messaged the family group chat after 5 whole months of silence and wrote, "Dinner, Friday, 7 p.m., no excuses." I wanted to ignore it. Honestly, I was tired of family drama, but something in me said, "Go, Adele, just show face, eat, leave." So I did. I got there early. I'm always early. Trauma habit. Mom greeted me like she hadn't dodged my calls last month. "Hi, sweetheart," she said, kissing my cheek. "You've lost weight." I forced a smile. Working 2 jobs will do that. Brian came next. Loud, cocky, suit-wearing Brian who thinks he's too big for Legos now. Then Noble, the golden boy, her favorite, still living at home and acting like a humble prince. Dad walked in last. Calm, always calm. We sat, we prayed, and then we started eating. We laughed about random things. Brian's trip to Accra, Noble's new crypto obsession, Dad's knee surgery. Nobody mentioned how I had been working at a laundry store part-time or how I dropped out of nursing school 3 years ago. Until that moment. Until that one stupid question. "So, Adele, did the money help at all?" My mouth went dry. I blinked twice. Maybe I didn't hear him well. "What money?" I asked, voice low, but sharp. He chuckled, thinking I was joking. "The money I've been sending. Every month since you left school. Your mom said you were really struggling, so I made sure." His words started fading in my ears. Mom. My mom. I turned my head. She was still frozen. I stared at her like she'd grown horns. "Mom, what is he talking about?" She finally looked up. Her voice came out stiff. "Adele, it's not what you think. No, please." I dropped my spoon. "Let me think clearly. Daddy says he's been sending money every month?" Dad nodded slowly. "Yes, to support you. Your mom assured me she was giving it to you." I laughed, not out of humor. The kind of laugh that breaks in the middle. "Mom?" She bit her lip. I didn't think it was the right time to give you the money." I stood up. 7 years, Mom. You told me we were broke. I was eating noodles for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I was borrowing clothes from strangers to go to interviews." "It wasn't that simple," she snapped. "Really?" I crossed my arms. "Then explain. Explain to all of us." Brian was now staring at her too. Noble's fork had fallen into his stew. "Wait," Brian said. "You mean all those times Adele said she was broke, you actually had money?" Mom said nothing. "Answer him," I yelled, "because now I need to know if I'm crazy or if you just enjoyed watching me suffer." Her hands trembled. "I didn't want you to feel entitled. I wanted you to be strong." "No, you wanted to control me." She looked hurt, but I didn't care. "You always hated that I dropped out of nursing school. You said I was wasting my life, so you decided to punish me for it, even though Daddy was trying to help. I was trying to protect you." "No, you were trying to make me beg." Tears were in my eyes, but I didn't blink them away. I wanted her to see them. I needed her to feel them. Dad looked confused, hurt. "I trusted you, Grace." Mom turned to him. "You don't understand. You don't know the full picture." "Then help us understand," Brian said coldly, "because right now, you're looking like a whole villain." Noble just whispered, "Wow." And that's when I sat back down, still shaking, still hurting, and asked again, this time louder, "Mom, where is the money?" She didn't answer. She just looked down at her rice and started to cry. The kind of silence that followed could tear wallpaper off the walls. Dad dropped his napkin. Brian pushed back his chair. Noble folded his arms. Me? I just kept staring. Mom's hands were shaking now. She took a deep breath and said something so stupid I almost stood up and slapped the table. I didn't tell you because you were fragile. Excuse me? I blinked. You were already emotional, Adele, after the school issue and all your breakdowns. I wasn't fragile, I cut in. I was broke. There's a difference. Brian scoffed. So you were collecting Dad's money and using it for what exactly? Family matters, she mumbled. What family? Noble snapped. Because we were all broke. Lights off. No fuel. I had to borrow money for data from a classmate. I was trying to keep this house together, Mom shouted, slamming her palm on the table. Do you know how hard it is to feed 3 children and pretend everything's okay? Do you know how it feels when your husband leaves you to be the bad guy? Dad sat back, eyebrows raised. Grace, I didn't leave. I was abroad for cancer treatment. And you knew that. Her lip quivered. Still, you weren't here. So you punished Adele for it? She pointed at me. She quit school without telling anyone. She refused to come home. She moved into that useless boy's apartment in Yaba. Don't bring Demeji into this, I warned. She turned to the others. She embarrassed this family. So you hid money meant for her? Brian asked again. For how long? Mom didn't answer. Dad took over. I've been sending $150,000 every month since 2017 for her, sometimes more. Noble gasped. Wait, $150K times 12 times 7 years. Brian tapped his calculator. That's over 12 million naira. Silence. I stood up. 12 million naira. Tears rolled down my face. Mummy, I begged you. I was on the street. I was eating once a day. I sold my phone. I borrowed sanitary pads from my neighbor's daughter. Adele, please. I thought we were poor. You told me there was nothing left after Dad traveled. You said we had to tighten belts. So I did. I tied my whole chest. I didn't think. No, you didn't care. I dropped my napkin. The food on my plate now looked like poison. That was when Brian asked the question none of us saw coming. So if the money wasn't going to Adele, who was it going to? Story lovers, take a moment now to subscribe to the channel if you haven't. This story is just heating up, and trust me, the next part is the one that will make you shout, "Wet'n I just here?" Let's continue. You ever been hit with 2 slaps, one on the face and one on the heart? That's how I felt when I remembered something I had buried for years. The year was 2018. I was 22. I had just dropped out of nursing school after my 3rd year. I had dreams. Big ones. I wanted to be the kind of nurse that wrote books, ran a podcast, and helped girls in the village believe in themselves. I even applied for scholarships on my own. But depression came. Quietly, like smoke in a locked room. Demeji, my then-boyfriend, tried to help. He let me move into his small room in Yaba. We shared a mattress and one pot. I lied to Mom and said I was staying with a friend near campus. But that one day, I broke down. I hadn't eaten all day. My period came early. I had cramps so bad I was crawling. Demeji had gone for delivery work. There was nothing in the room but a cup of Gary. So I called Mom. Shaking, crying, I told her everything. I can't take it anymore, I whispered over the phone. If there's any way at all, you can help. Please, I'll work, I'll wash, anything. She listened quietly. Then she said, I told you to stay in school, and hung up. That night, I sat on the cold tile, holding my stomach, wondering what kind of mother would rather prove a point than help her child. I never forgot that night. And now, 5 years later, I was sitting at a table, being told that there was money. There had always been money, and it never reached me. Back in the dining room, Noble stood up. Mom, you better start talking. She looked up at him, eyes red. It's complicated. Try, Brian said. She wiped her face with the corner of her wrapper and took a deep breath. I sent the money to Obinna. We all looked at each other. Who is Obinna? I asked. My brother's son. Dad frowned. Your brother died in 2012. She nodded. Yes, he left a son. Quiet boy, sir. He was only 13 then. Lived with his aunt in Port Harcourt, but they were poor. They couldn't feed him. I was confused. Okay, but what does that have to do with my own school fees? I was trying to help him, she said. He was doing well, got admitted to university. I didn't want him to suffer the way I did when I was younger. You didn't want him to suffer, Brian repeated. She nodded. But you let us suffer? I didn't let you suffer, she snapped. You had a house, food. We didn't have dignity. I cut in. Mom flinched. You let your pride come first, I continued. You watched me clean toilets in restaurants, sleep on floor tiles, walk long distances to save $100 while you were wiring Dad's money cousin we've never even met. It wasn't like that. What was it like then? Please help me understand, because right now I'm starting to believe you enjoyed my pain. She broke down again. Full tears. The snot kind. Dad just sat there, quiet, maybe stunned, maybe ashamed. Brian looked like he wanted to break something. Noble? He walked away from the table and leaned on the wall, whispering something to himself. I stood there, my heart pounding. Then a strange calmness came over me. I turned to Mom and said, You didn't steal my money. You stole my youth. She looked up, confused. I'm 29 now. Do you know what that means? It means I spent my 20s surviving. While other girls were building careers, getting married, finding their joy, I was fighting for scraps. Adele, please. I shook my head. No, don't beg me. I don't even know what to do with the anger I feel. And that was when the doorbell rang. Dad looked at me. Were you expecting anyone? I shook my head. Brian went to open the door. He came back, carrying a manila envelope. He handed it to Mom. She opened it. Inside were printed receipts and a note. The note read, Thank you for everything, Ma. I just got my master's admission in Canada. I'll never forget the money you sent. God bless you forever. Obinna. You could have heard a mosquito sneeze in that room after Mom read the letter. She held the paper like it was made of fire. Her fingers trembled. Her eyes darted from word to word, like maybe if she blinked enough, the words would change and save her. Obinna, she whispered. Dad reached for the receipts. He scanned them slowly, bank transfers all in her name, all matching the exact monthly figures he'd sent over the years. So it's true, he muttered. You sent everything to him. Mom dropped the paper like it burned her hand. She covered her face and wept, but it wasn't the kind of cry that makes you feel sorry. It was the kind that made me angry, like she was crying for herself, not for what she'd done. Brian looked like someone poured hot engine oil down his chest. So you funded his life? He asked, voice tight. His school, his rent, his future? She sniffled. I wanted someone to make it. Wow, he laughed bitterly. So we're not someone? You were all smart, strong. You had chances. I flared up. No, Mummy, you had chances. You had choices. You chose him. She turned to me sharply. He had nobody else, no parents, no proper guardian, just me. I had to be his mother, too. I stepped forward, trembling with rage. Then say it. Say you chose to be his mother instead of mine. Say you picked him and left me for survival. I didn't mean it like that, but that's what you did. She shook her head violently. You don't understand. You never understood what it meant to be the one person holding everyone together. I was the only one holding this family up. Your father was in and out of hospitals abroad. Brian was getting arrested in school fights. Noble wouldn't talk to anyone. You dropped out and ran off with that boy. What was I supposed to do? Break down? Sit and cry like a child? No, Brian snapped. You were supposed to tell the truth. Dad finally spoke, voice low and exhausted. You could have told me. Grace, I sent that money in good faith. For Adele. I didn't want to burden you, she said softly. He laughed. But you had no problem burdening her? That's when Noble spoke. The first real words he'd said in a while. He walked back to the table, eyes locked on Mom. You didn't just hide the money, he said quietly. You lied. Every time we asked why there was no fuel, no school money, no birthday cakes, you said times are hard. But the times weren't hard. You were hard. Don't speak to me like that. I'll speak the truth, he said, since you won't. She looked at him, stunned. You of all people? Noble? Yes, he said. Because I'm tired. We're all tired. You were supposed to protect us. You made us feel poor, small, like beggars. But you were our mother. She reached for him, but he stepped back. I felt something snap inside me. I sat down. My legs were weak. My whole life, my suffering, my depression, the guilt, the nights I thought of ending it all of it was unnecessary. All of it could have been avoided, if only she had told the truth. But instead, she played God. Quiet, righteous, cruel God. And the worst part? She still didn't look sorry. She looked defensive, wounded, like we were the problem, like we were ungrateful. I looked her straight in the eye. You hid help from me, I said, and you watched me fall apart. She whispered, I didn't think it would break you. I stared at her. Then you don't know me at all. Dad rubbed his forehead, then leaned back in his chair. He looked like a man who had just discovered his own shadow had been lying to him. I sent that money, he began, because I couldn't be there. We all turned to him. I was weak, sick, alone in a hospital in Turkey, getting chemotherapy. I couldn't hold her hand, couldn't show up for birthdays or PTA meetings, but I thought at least I could show love through provision. He looked at Mom. I thought you were giving her that love. I trusted you. She didn't meet his eyes. He turned to me. Adele, I failed you too. I shook my head. No, you tried. You thought I had it. That's not failure. That's trust. He gave a sad smile. Still, I should have followed up, asked questions, called you directly. I thought you were fighting for your life, I whispered. I was, but so were you. Something shifted then, between us. For the first time in years, I didn't feel angry at him. I just felt tired. He looked at Mom again. Grace, you used my weakness as an opportunity to rewrite the rules. I thought I was doing what was right. No, he said softly. You were doing what was convenient. Mom stood up suddenly. So I'm the villain now, right? After everything I did to keep this family standing? You didn't keep us standing, Brian said. You kept us blind. She looked around. You don't know what I gave up. You don't know how many nights I didn't sleep, how many bills I juggled. Then why didn't you let us help? Noble asked. Because I didn't trust you. That stunned all of us. Silence again. Then she covered her mouth, like she didn't mean to say it out loud. But it was too late. The truth had jumped out, naked and wild. You didn't trust your own children, Brian whispered. She nodded slowly, eyes full of tears. I thought you'd waste it. I thought you'd run mad with entitlement. I thought if I controlled the money, I could control the chaos. And look how that worked out, I muttered. She sat down heavily, defeated. Like she'd finally run out of lies to wear. For the first time, she looked old to me, not just in face, in spirit. The weight of her choices had aged her. Dad stood up and walked toward the window. He didn't speak for a while, just stared into the backyard, into the fading evening light. Then he said, From tomorrow, I'm handling everything directly. Mom looked up. What do you mean? I mean the house, the bills, the transfers, all of it. You need to rest, Grace. That's not your decision. It is now, he said final. I stood too. This family needs to breathe, I added. We've been living in secrets for too long. Brian nodded. And if there's more we should know, say it now. Mom was silent. Noble looked around. Then it settled. We all stood. Except her. She sat alone at the table. The queen with no crown. The woman who ruled with silence and secrets, now quieted by the truth. The storm didn't end after we stood up from that table. No, it just changed shape. Dinner plates sat cold, untouched. The aroma of peppered goat meat mixed with tension. The wine bottles sweated untouched. Brian had stopped pacing and now leaned against the fridge, arms crossed, lips pressed tight like he was holding back a war. I was about to grab my bag and leave when Noble's voice stopped me. So, Mum, he said, voice too calm to be harmless. Just one more question. She looked up slowly from her seat, where she still sat like a stone in the middle of a sea that had rejected her. He asked, Did Obinna ever ask about us? Ever send a thank you? Even once? Her lips quivered. He did. That letter. Before that one, Noble pressed. All those years. 7 years of money, food, rent, tuition. Did he ever ask how your own children were? She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Brian stepped in. Because I checked his Instagram last year. Man was living large in Abuja, designer clothes, took a trip to Ghana. You told us there was no money for generator, but my guy was at Labadi Beach, drinking mojitos. That money was for survival, she shouted, defensive again. Survival? I scoffed. You wired my money to a man who was taking spa selfies? Did he survive or did he soft life his way into Canada? Brian laughed. I can't believe this. We're the real orphans here. Stop it, Mom snapped. But her voice cracked. Not from anger, this time from shame. Dad said nothing. He hadn't said anything in a while. He stood at the window still, staring out like the night air was the only thing keeping him from breaking. I faced Mom again. Let me ask you something real. She nodded, slowly. I took a breath, my chest tight. If Dad didn't ask that question today, would you have ever told us? She didn't answer. That was my answer. Silence. Dead silence. And that was when I exploded. I took the wine glass beside me and flung it, hard against the tiled floor. It shattered with a scream. Pieces flew across the room. I begged you, I shouted. I cried on the phone, Mummy. I was down to one wrapper and you were sending my rescue to someone else. Brian held me gently. Adele, breathe. But I couldn't. I thought you were broke. I thought Dad abandoned us. I hated him. I carried that hatred for years. Dad turned. You hated me? I froze. He stepped forward. Adele, is that what you thought? I nodded slowly. My voice cracked. You left. You disappeared. The hat. Then you sent me a birthday message 1 year like you were still my father. I blocked you. He exhaled and rubbed his eyes. Jesus. I thought I was nobody, I whispered. I thought I was nothing. I thought you forgot me. But you didn't. She made me believe it. Mom finally cried, loud, choking sobs. But this time, I didn't care. Let the tears flow. She earned them. Story lovers, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. You followed Adele through pain, secrets, and family fire. And what's coming next will make your jaw drop. This story isn't just about betrayal. It's about who helped the betrayal happen. Back to it. Noble cleared his throat. I need to confess something, he said. We all turned to him. He scratched the back of his neck, eyes down. I knew about the money. You could have sworn the ceiling dropped. What? I whispered. Brian's voice was sharp. You what? Noble looked ashamed. Not all of it, just some. I saw a transfer alert on Mom's phone one night. This was maybe 2 years ago. Mom looked stunned. You never told me you saw that. I didn't want to confront you then, he muttered. I assumed it was from a friend or a side hustle, but something didn't sit right. So I checked her laptop one night when she forgot to log out of her email. I stepped back. My throat was tight. What did you see? I asked. Receipts, transfers, subject lines like for Adele, April, and monthly support, education. But I was confused. You weren't in school anymore. I thought maybe she was saving it for you secretly, like some surprise fund. And you didn't ask me, I said, hurt piercing through my chest like a nail. I was scared, he confessed. And if I'm being honest, I didn't want to be in the middle. I already had problems of my own. Final year was eating me. I was depressed too. Brian shook his head. So your solution was to stay quiet while your sister drowned? I didn't know she was drowning, he shouted back. None of us talked. Nobody in this house talked. We just walked around acting fine, holding secrets like trophies. I sat back down. Tears welled up again. Noble came closer. Adele, I'm sorry, he said. Truly, I should have told you. Or Dad, or even Brian. I didn't think it would grow into all this. Mom stood up, wiping her face. It's my fault. I dragged him into the lie without saying a word. Dad added softly. We all failed each other. That line stayed in the air like smoke. We all failed each other. It wasn't just Mom anymore. It was all of us. Secrets, assumptions, silence. I looked at Noble, eyes tired. You were the only one I called when I nearly did something stupid in 2021. I know, he whispered, and I've never forgiven myself. He reached for my hand. This time, I didn't pull away. Because truth be told, I didn't need another enemy. I needed a brother. We all needed healing, but healing doesn't come cheap. It comes with fire. And we were burning. After the shouting, after the silence, after the glass had shattered and the tears had fallen, we just sat. 4 adults in a dining room full of leftovers and regrets. Nobody had the energy to eat anymore. The smell of jollof rice now made me nauseous. I sat quietly, listening to the hum of the fridge and the occasional cough from Brian. Mom had stopped crying. She was just sitting. Her makeup smeared, her blouse wrinkled, her hands shaking faintly as she held onto her necklace like it was her last defense. Dad finally spoke again. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't point fingers. He just said, we need to rebuild, but not like before. This house, this family, needs to be rebuilt on honesty. Everyone nodded. She gave a weak smile. And how do we do that, Henry? How do we fix what's already broken? Brian replied before Dad could. First, you stop talking like the victim. She flinched. I'm not the victim, she said softly. I just feel like I failed all of you. You didn't just fail, I said, standing up slowly. You caused pain and then buried it. She turned to me. And what do I do now, Adele? Kneel? Beg? Leave? I sighed. No, Mom. You just sit in it. For once, don't fix it. Don't spin it. Don't blame anyone. Just feel it. Let it break you a little, because that's what we've been feeling for years. She nodded quietly. No defense this time, just silence. Noble poured himself water. He looked at me over the rim of the glass. You leaving? I don't know yet, I said, but I can't stay in this house tonight, not with this kind of heat in my chest. Dad said, You can stay with me. I raised my eyebrows. You moved out? He nodded. Last year. The sickness changed something in me. I needed peace. I gave a tired smile. I think I need that too. Brian leaned back. I booked an Airbnb for the weekend. Just needed to escape. Guess now it's more than just escaping. Mom cleared her throat. You're all leaving me? Dad replied gently. No, you're just staying behind for once. She blinked fast. I don't know how to be alone. That's where healing starts, I whispered, where no one else is around to lie to. She nodded slowly. For the first time in the entire evening, she looked small. Not weak, but human. I turned to Noble. You okay? He nodded. Not yet, but I will be. We didn't hug. We didn't have to. The room was still heavy but lighter than before, like we had finally opened the windows after years of stale air. The next morning, I packed a small bag, just a few clothes, my journal, and my charger. I left the room I grew up in, the one with faded stickers on the wardrobe and cracks near the window from that storm in 2009. As I passed the hallway, I saw the family photo hanging crooked, the one from Christmas 2014, where we all wore red and white and Brian had matching socks with Noble. I almost laughed. We looked like such a perfect family. I walked past it. In the living room, Mom was seated on the couch in her wrapper, eyes puffy, holding a cup of cold tea. She looked up as I passed. Adele, she said. I paused. I don't expect you to forgive me, she continued. Not now, maybe not ever, but I'm glad you finally know the truth. I nodded. Me too. And I hope you find what you were looking for. I turned to her fully and said, I wasn't looking for money, Mum. I was looking for you. That broke her. She covered her face and wept again. But this time, I didn't stay to comfort her, because healing isn't about returning to the scene of the crime. Sometimes it's about walking away without bitterness, and I was ready to walk. Outside, the morning sun was kind. Not too hot, not too harsh. It just warmed me. Brian's car was parked in front. Noble stood by the gate, pretending to scroll his phone. Dad was already waiting in his own car. We didn't talk much, but we didn't need to. This wasn't a dramatic exit. It was just a shift, a new start. 3 weeks later, I sat on the balcony of Dad's apartment, sipping coffee and writing in my journal. Things weren't perfect, but they were clearer. I started therapy. Real therapy. Paid for by Dad, this time, directly. I also went back to volunteering at the hospital where I used to intern. Just part-time. Nothing too heavy. I hadn't spoken to Mom since the night of the dinner. But Noble said she'd started attending group sessions for parents dealing with guilt and trauma. Brian went back to work, but I knew something in him changed too. He talked less, hugged more. And me? I stopped waking up feeling like I had to fight every single hour of the day. I stopped resenting people who smiled too easily. I stopped pretending I was okay, because now I wasn't pretending. One night, I got a message from a random number. It was obit red. I heard. I'm sorry. I didn't know the money wasn't hers. I thought I was being helped, not stealing. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. I didn't reply. Not yet. Because some ghosts don't need closure. They just need to stay buried. Hi, story lovers. That's the end of Adele's journey, a story about secrets, survival, and the strange ways love can twist into something unrecognizable. What do you think about the story? Was Adele right to walk away? Do you think the mother deserves forgiveness? Have you ever been lied to by someone you trusted? Tell us in the comments. Let's talk about it. And if you want more emotional, shocking, and thought-provoking African stories like this, click the red subscribe button right now. Check the right corner of your screen for more stories from the Story and Soul family. We'll be waiting.